Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. I have an interesting topic for you for this analysis that I'm going to be doing for you this time around. Of course, I did post a note to the community. I didn't want to disclose anything because I was working on confirming the information before I'll come on the air. So, North Korea, am I surprised? No, I'm not. It's because we talked about this a few weeks ago when I mentioned to you, be on a lookout for the possibility of that alliance of Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China. So, and I'm going to be providing you my insights about all this and put it in perspective for the bigger picture, because there are a lot of moving parts that you need to be aware of. So, and that's not just limited to the West Asia or Middle East, but also extended all the way to two locations, one in Far East and one in Africa. And I'm gonna do videos for you on each one separately. So, but first, let's say hi to our wonderful community. Noel, good to see you, and much appreciate your continued support, Noel. I just want you to know how grateful I am. So thank you so much for that. Rampol Sawan, good to see you. UT The super as always. Raphaël Lagonde, salut et bon weekend à toi aussi. So basically saying hi and good weekend to you all. So Leanne, good to see you. Camilla, good to see you. Willie Holman as always. Farid Amel, good to see you. Mohammed Mazharuddin as always. AF Gondos Carleon, good to see you. Salam to you as well. So all right, guys, I'm gonna have to go in here because I got a lot to cover and I don't want you to miss any. Just one thing as a housekeeping item. Remember to join me tomorrow for my conversation with Professor Anna Malandag. There is something major going on in the Philippines. So to my Filipino viewers, make sure to tune in tomorrow at about 10 p.m. Manila time. So I'm going to put the link for you guys in the chat box, and I will see you about this tomorrow. So, as I said, North Korea, how are we going to be looking at this now moving forward? It's not a small matter. Mark my word on this. It's because, first of all, North Korea does not bluff and will not bluff. But when you think about the statements, and I'm going to be providing you a picture of the meeting that took place inside Tehran, that was one of the things I was working on also to make sure. And believe it or not, guys, I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. And the reason I couldn't sleep, and I'll share it with you, it's our community. It's just I was thinking about the possible scenarios, what could happen. And I really couldn't sleep at all. It took me about an hour and a half before I fall back asleep. And I tried to play that in my head ahead of time, just thinking. It's because for North Korea to announce they're going to enter the fight if and when the United States and Israel violate the ceasefire. So makes you just wonder, first of all, why North Korea will issue a statement like that? Is it because they know that both the US and Israel will not honor their commitments? Is this also, do you know, because of what the US has a tendency of doing is going back on its word? And third, is this statements because of what the US is preparing in the East? And that is one of the things I will be talking about tomorrow with Professor Anna Malandag. And I am going to do something also special for our community on Monday. So I'm not going to disclose. There are sometimes certain things I just don't want to disclose till time comes in. So suffice it to say for now is that the announcement by North Korea is a game changer. So because when North Korea is stating that it stands ready to support Iran, that's not a nice settled way of saying we're going to fight alongside with Iran against the US and Israel. And as a matter of fact, North Korea has already issued some very fiery statements about Israel. So I'm not going to get into that here. Suffice it to focus on what this means. From a geopolitical perspective and from a security aspect. Mind you that what North Korea described the attacks by both the US and Israel on Iran, as a proof of the worthlessness of the international standards. It is very interesting that coming from North Korea to be issuing this up. And here is one thing. I'm going to share a link with you pertaining to the international law to this particular aspect. You guys don't have to read it if you don't want to, but this is for later on if you want to educate yourself about this. But I'm going to share a paragraph with you from this particular statements or report. Here is what says in Article 1 about the prohibition of the use of force under international law, especially Article 2, Section 4 of the UN Charter. It says, and I quote, Article 2, Section 4 of the UN Charter enshrines the obligation of all members to refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The International Court of Justice considers the prohibition on the use of force under Article 2, Section 4 of the UN Charter to constitute both an obligation under customary international law and what it has characterized as a cornerstone of the UN, of the United Nations charters, end of quote. And just to highlight to you the importance that it was clear and evident, at least I speak for my country. I'm not going to talk about Israel because that's a different perspective. Or I'll talk about my own country for how he violated the law, international law that is. And this is where I found it very, very interesting that North Korea is stating this aspect first instead of stating force, use of force. Because remember what North Korea is saying. We, and I quote, we stand strongly by Iran. So the word stand strongly, it's a subtle way in a reference to force. It's because what North Korea is going to bring to the table is a major firepower. That I don't think so, and I'm going to say it straightforward. I don't think so Israel will survive, even with the support of the US, because North Koreans not going to bluff. And we saw what happened with the Houthis, which I'm going to talk about too in a second here. So here's what took place and why I didn't want to disclose the information yesterday, because it was a meeting taking place in Tehran at the North Korean embassy inside Tehran. So, and the meeting, and I have a picture here. There it is. This was taken as of July 10th, which was yesterday. So, and what you see on the Iranian side is Mohammed Ali Amani. He's the Secretary General of Iran Islamic Coalition Party, and the North Korean ambassador Hang Sang. So, but here is what Hang Sang said, which praising Iran's recent operation against Israeli aggression, end of quote. So, what I found also interesting about the statements of the ambassador, North Korean ambassador, is that North Korea sort of expressed its unwavering support for Iran's legitimate right to self-defense. Once again, guys, the wording is measured. This is what I always wanted to get you to understand. You know, it can go both ways, like what we do. We play with words. You know, that's to manipulate the masses. But on the other hand, something like this that is legit and true and factual, the wording is precise and specific. So North Korea praised Iran's recent operations against Israel aggression. It's straightforward as to the violation of the international law, but also the support of Iran for self-defense. So now, here is the thing about all this. The response from the Iranian side was that they commended North Korea's stance while emphasizing the unity of the regional resistance front, which is, by the way, as a geopolitical analyst, the way I look at it and why Iran will be wording it this way is because this regional resistance front will be considered as a key to ensuring security in West Asia. You're looking at two tracks here. You're looking at the geopolitical aspect and you're looking at the security aspects of it. So, and this is where, to me, the entrance of North Korea into the fray, into the fight per se, is going to now put the question mark on the United States and Israel. And what do I mean by this? The US and Israel now, they're going to have to think twice about attacking Iran. That's one. Second, all the recent statements coming out of Netanyahu in Washington when he was there, 3 days ago, all of them hinted at the direction of, I wanted to reach a peace with Hamas, I wanted to reach peace with the Houthis, and I want to reach a peace or agreement with Iran. So all this didn't happen in a vacuum. It's also, once again, my conviction, my understanding is that both the United States and Israel understand what North Korea is going to bring to the table as far as firepower. So this is why I'm saying it's a game changer. There is no other way of looking at it. There is one aspect I need you to think about this. From behind the scenes, could this be coordinated with both Russia and China? What do you think? Because remember, North Korea is a client of both Russia and China, but is also a good partner or friend, or whatever term you want to use, with Iran. So the timing of the statements of the North Korean, is it because of the behind the scenes coordination with Russia and China? Yes or no? Let me just see your answer in the chat box. Heck, you say yep. Fermida, you say definitely yes. Francis Tango, you say, I don't think North Korea wants to cooperate with war. Why is that, Francis? It's because if they are not willing to get into a fight, they would have not stated this. So that's just my opinion, and I respect your insights for this. Damascus, you say yes. Ramples of one. What is the question? The question was Russia and China behind the scenes coordinating with North Korea to move forward with these public statements? In other words, for North Korea to get into this, it was coordinated with Russia and China. So Javier Carter or Cater, you say yes indeed. Tatu, Vendi, you say yes. Oh, I missed this one. I wanted to share it with the community here. So the Nobel nitpicker, North Korea is the real MVP in all this. You know what? You got a point there. It's because that's why I said it last time. I said, mark my word, North Korea will be part of this alliance should this move forward. It's because it's now or never. And this is why I am thinking personally now, both the US and Israel will have to think now twice. And because, again, the firepower North Korea is going to bring to the table is within reach also, in addition to what Iran has regarding the US installations in West Asia or Middle East, that is. As for Israel, it is, to me, I look at it, it will be destroyed. And that is why you see a reverse in policy. There is one thing you have to know about geopolitics is that it's not constant. Sometimes the changes in events will force you to change your position. It doesn't mean you are flip-flopping. No. It's just you have to accommodate or go with what the recent trend is regarding the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground that I see looking over the horizon is that if this will move that direction as far as the US and Israel attacking Iran again, North Korea is going to intervene militarily with Iran. I am sure Russia and China will do something behind the scenes, but if they are to go through North Korea, it will be okay. Because remember, there's one thing that is not being disclosed openly, is that it was the Russia that provided the targets to the Houthis. Because remember, the Russians have their own so-called satellite systems where they can pick up the targets. Remember that. Houthis are not doing this out of thin air. And that's my arguments here. So you have to keep that in mind. So, and this, when you have now the thinking, this is what North Korea is now expressing, which I am a little bit surprised as to the public statements. when it's stating that resistance is the only path to secure the rights of the people of Iran, Korea, Palestine, and other regional nations. End of quote. So, and what I found also interesting, the statement by Amani, the Iranian representative in this meeting, when he said that this alliance, which comprises of Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China, could shape a new world order, which exactly what I argued before, because you're looking now at the transformation of the global order, moving from a unipolar to a multipolar. We are having a hard time in Washington accepting this reality, but it won't matter whether we accept it or not. The world is moving on, and that shift has already taken place. This is why you're seeing the ill-conceived policies of the United States. These are not strategies. This is just reactionary policies. And this is why now the way you have to look at this, with the presence of North Korea, or the entrance of North Korea into this particular fray, if I may use the term, is the idea of what you'll be looking at is the idea of the level of deterrence. This is one of the keys, because Iran doesn't have that one yet. North Korea does, whether it's just missiles or even the bomb. That is why, remember what the statements of the Russian president, I think he was the president, or Sergei Lavrov, I couldn't remember, and please, if you do remember, share with the community. When one of them stated that there are countries willing to provide a nuclear weapon to Iran. Is this one of them? So, because now you're looking at a changing in the balance of power. You're looking at a changes in the deterrence power that is arising from this cooperation. And why? It's because with the statement of North Korea, it will guarantee the ceasefire, because Israel and the United States will have to think twice. The US, we already are retreating. We don't want to get involved. We saw what happened with the Houthis. We saw what Iran's message when they attacked Al-Udeid base in Qatar, and this is why I'm saying you have to put this within the bigger picture, and that bigger picture is that the entrance of North Korea is going to tilt the balance of power now and makes it even playing field. Israel and the US will have to think twice. And that's why the representative of Iran stated, and I quote, "Today, Iran is the defensive barrier of Eastern civilizations against Western expansionism. And if this barrier collapses, the storm will head eastward." End of quote. And that's what he warned. It was very clear message that it's now or never. Otherwise, it's going to become a serious problem. Liking this video so far? Don't just be a watcher. Go ahead and hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget to tap the bell so you will not miss any of my videos or live streams. This way, you will be supporting a channel that stands for the truth and objective reporting. The choice is yours. Thanks for your support. And yes, I do appreciate your support. So please hit that like button and subscribe and share the video with others. So now let's go back to, again, I have to, because I read the statements. That's why I spent time looking for the information, because I want to get you something that is worth your time. Ambassador Han, who is the ambassador of North Korea, he also referenced to something very interesting. Wasn't about the military cooperation, because remember, Iran's missile technology is from North Korea, FYI. The Russians have helped to a degree, but mainly is North Korea. But he didn't refer to that. He didn't reference to this one. He referred to the historical cooperation between Tehran and Pyongyang under sanctions and pressure, because both countries are sanctioned by the US. And this is where I found his statements important. Here is what he said, and I quote, We have stood by the Iranian people since the start of the Zionist aggression against Iran. The West cannot be trusted and is always seeking to undermine the sovereignty of independent Eastern countries. End of quote. Remember, he didn't say independent of global country or world or whatever. He specifically talked about Eastern countries, because Europe is already under the thumb of US. We already know that. And moving forward, he went ahead and issue again another statement, even though they did it before, is that he condemned the US attack on Iran peaceful nuclear facilities, which were, by the way, under IAEA supervision. And that, as I shared at the beginning, is proof of the worthlessness of the international standards. So that's to me, it's as clear as it gets. So now you put this in perspective and you add the where's the picture? I thought I had a picture here. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna upload it here quickly. Thanks for your patience, guys. There we go. And you already saw this because I put it into the community, but you have to bring this into the conversation. And this one has to do with the statements by the US that's trying to put a spin into this. Of course, what has not been disclosed as of yesterday or the day before, after Sunday, because that's when the Houthis launched the missile into Israel. So, is that Yemen Houthis fire Israel airport once again, aimed search for Red Sea ship crew, because Israel wanted to do this one. So 4 sailors from the Eternity Sea were dead, and 10 of them were found live, 11 of them still missing, and 6 believed to be in Houthis' hand. In other words, they're hostage with the Houthis. So now here's the thing. That's why the Houthis tried to fire or strike once again Ben Gurion Airport after, here is the key, after the sinking of the 2 vessels in the Red Sea this week, because it started on Sunday and it followed by Monday. 2 ships. Remember, it was the Greek ship that had Liberian flag, and the second one was the Majestic Seas. That's the one. So, and all this is because the Houthis now ramping up the military pressure, as you know. And this is why I'm saying, try to see this development and add North Korea's factor to that. And because that's what Sari said, we moved to, by the way, which the excuse me, which media didn't disclose. Do you guys know that the Houthis had moved to rescue a number of the ship's crew and provide them with medical care and transport them to a safe location? Of course, they're going to hold them, but they're going to have to take care of that. And they did. They're not going to lie about this. I've been around long enough, especially during my trips to Yemen and all that. And I know for a fact how the group operates and thinks. They're not going to lie. They're not going to just issue these statements. So, and this is why the US embassy in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, countered this argument. And where did they counter that? Did they counter it on a really public press, the White House press room? No. They put statements on X, accusing Houthis of kidnapping the crew members and killing the shipmates, so sinking their ship and hampering rescue efforts. What a lie! That's what the Trump administration is doing, and those usually it's a clear indication of the failure of how much we don't have a strategy in place, how much we don't know what to do, how much we're just reacting to events as they happen. So, because the attack on the Eternity Sea, the ship that is, came one day after the Houthis struck and sank the Magic Seas ship, which is the picture and the clip that I shared with you the day before. So, and that's to highlight to you the idea. Of course, some of the crews were rescued. So, and that's when Israel on Sunday launched an attack, bombing the ports of Hodeidah. I found the exact location here, guys, just to share it with you. Let me see if you can see it clearly. Yeah, those are the locations: the Salif port, Ras Isa port, and Hodeidah port. Those are the locations where the Israelis targeted the ports on Sunday. So Ras Isa, Salif, as well as Ras Kantib. Those are some. Suffice it to say, one another piece of information that a lot of people did not know is that that the Houthis have been holding members, 25 crew members of the Galaxy for 430 days before they released them on January this year, 2025. So this is what I'm saying. And of course, it goes without saying they are not disclosing. They in Tel Aviv and in Washington, and of course, Western Europeans are useless anyway. Excuse me. What they are not disclosing is the massive destruction that already happened inside Israel. So I'm going to share a picture with you here. This is inside Israel, inside Tel Aviv, I believe. So, and I remember I had I don't know where I put the link for this one. Anyway, I look for it later on. I just saved the picture. This is the firefighters inspecting the site struck by an Iranian missile that killed several people. So I just wanted to, this way and I have to show you what is going on. Of course, you reach your own conclusions and decisions. So. And that is where this importance of North Korea's entrance into this makes perfect sense now, that the deterrence, the US now will have to think twice. Israel, of course, cannot do anything on its own. That I know for a fact. There is no way Israel will do anything on its own, because we already retreated from supporting Israel against the Houthis. It's almost like they're left by themselves now. Are they going to handle 3 fronts? The Hezbollah front, which is not activated anyway at this time. So you have Hezbollah, Houthis, Iran, and now you add North Korea to the mix. There is no way. There is no way. That's why I feel comfortable stating the word a game changer, because it is on all levels. And North Korea will want to do this because they wanted also to prevent the US from moving eastward. And you will know why tomorrow when I have my conversation with Professor Anna Manendog, and on Monday, because of specific topic that I am going to be doing for you. I already lined up what I'm going to be covering, and I'm going to be reaching out to some people that I know to confirm certain aspects. Now, with all this in mind, you have to think also in terms of what North Korea brings to the table with all this. So I'm going to share one excerpt, if you allow me, from my Iran book, and I think there is another one from my Russia book, to put a perspective, because I addressed the Iran aspects on both books. So history shows us that the political turbulence that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union, as the United States failed to lead the international community on its own. Consider, for example, the genocide in Rwanda that took place, in which a paralyzed US failed to intervene. Note the failed state in Somalia, which demonstrated the US inability to engage in guerrilla warfare. Observe North Korea's ability to acquire nuclear weapons, which showed a lack of US political influence over nations that could proliferate nuclear technology. Recon the 9/11 attacks, which brought about a militarized foreign policy. Witness the invasion of Iraq, which demonstrated a lack of credibility in the US. contemplate the rise of China, which underlines the shift of wealth from the West to the East, mark the civil war in Syria, which demonstrated a U.S. ill-defined and weak foreign policy, and lastly, behold the conquest of the Islamic State, which shows a lack of U.S. understanding that the Islamic State dilemma requires an ideological solution rather than a military approach. To simplify the issue, we shall consider Iran's nuclear dossier under three models of behavior, namely the North Korean model, the Libyan model, and the Japanese model. So before going any further, one must briefly shed light on the three models Iran may have pursued in the events of negotiations with P5+1 failed. And it was a reason why I wanted to disclose this. Excuse me. And the reason for that, guys, excuse me, the reason for that is that if North Korea moving forward with its entrance into this, that means North Korea is willing now to move forward with the nuclear aspects of it, should Iran decide to move that direction. Well, we already know Iran already made the first step with what's the word? Stopping any cooperation with IAEA. It's the same step that North Korea did. That's how they kicked out the IAEA, because you can't trust the IAEA. As a matter of fact, I am starting to be convinced that maybe the IAEA, the one that provides the names and locations of scientists. So I just can't trust them. I know this for a fact. So, and this is why, if we go back into history, you go back to March, and I was really aware of this one, March of 1993. This is when North Korea exercised its right to withdraw from NPT. Do you know that you have a right to exit the IAEA if you don't want to? So, and that's why North Korea at that time embarked on a policy of defiance and went ahead and sort of declared its intention to enrich plutonium at a military grade level. Like I always say, guys, think about it today. Can we threaten North Korea? Or any country for that matter? No, but especially us. It's us who that do this kind of stuff. And other countries won't go about it. And this is why, just to support my own claim for regarding this one, this is why North Korea declared both its intention to produce nuclear bomb and its capability of the winter. So, leaving no room for doubts. And that's what I'm starting to lean towards. The entrance of North Korea into the Iran front will not only be on the military front, but also will be on the technological aspect as far as nuclear weapon production. That's the only way I see it. So because when, and again, I use history as my guide, and I go back to this era because I was aware of it, and I did the research on it when I wrote the books and so forth. And when I think back about it, I was always asking the question, why will North Korea do that? Because, meaning declaring openly its intention to produce a nuclear weapon and its capability of doing so. So what wasn't clear to me at that time is that whether Western intelligence agency can account accurately for how many nuclear bombs that North Korea possesses. And that's something still under argument. Western intelligence, sorry guys, I forgot this one. Western intelligence couldn't. We have no idea, Of course, later on, we kind of get an idea of how many nuclear warheads they have. So, and this is why this ignorance on part of the Western intelligence is attributed to two main factors. First, which is as clear as daylight, the Western intelligence cannot infiltrate North Korea to get first-hand knowledge of what North Korea has. And second, North Korea's leadership tight control over population, prevent any foreign contact. And this is not a surprise. Even when you go on a trip, the trips are sort of directed by the government, and so it's their country. Who am I to judge them? They didn't harm me here. Why will I dislike them? Why will I? No, I won't. I got nothing against them, and it's just the way it is. So, and this is why it makes more sense to me, for me personally, to start to think in terms of, finally, is Iran reaching that point of saying, you know what, we've had it. We try to compromise, we try to negotiate, we try to reason with the West, but each time we've been played out. Well, you blame yourself in this case. And that is why, in the case or the model of North Korea, when they withdrew from the NPT, rendering any means of control unavailable, because IAEA controlling the process. All he needs to do is issue a report that says, oh no, Iran is enriching uranium at a high level. That's all it takes. Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, is as corrupted as it gets. The whole entity is corrupted. So, and that is why, here is the key. And I had a chance to read it. When you read the articles within the treaty, so that's the one that may have contributed to the North Korea's justification for withdrawal. Because you look at Article, I think Article 10, if I'm not mistaken, which one of the NPTs provide, and I put this in quote, a right to withdraw from the treaty if the withdrawing party decides that extraordinary events related to the subject matter of this treaty have jeopardized the supreme interest of its country. So, and of course, there is one more thing also, is that it also requires that a withdrawing state party gives 3 months notice. And that is why I am leaning more and more towards realizing that the entrance of North Korea, it's to reshape the trajectory of Iran's nuclear path. And again, Huna, I'm not inside, I'm not part of that. So maybe they reach that consensus and decide to go forward with this, because you can't trust the West. Yeah, that's it's. I'm not telling you something you guys do not know. That's just the norm. So, and and when you think about the idea of and again, for North Korea, they have experience with Americans. That is why they can't trust it. That's exactly what I wrote in my Russia book, and I'm going to share the excerpt with you here. Recall my reference to America's unilateral decisions to withdraw from the Iran nuclear agreement. I am convinced that North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, has factored in, prior to his 2 meetings with Trump in Singapore and Vietnam, respectively, that he, Kim, does not and will not trust Trump no matter what the latter says or promises. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran agreement testifies to Kim's thinking. U.S. withdrawal from agreements and treaties, bilateral or otherwise, shows Trump's inconsistencies. Countries around the world, including North Korea, are convinced that trusting the United States is a liability moving forward. They must be asking, how can we trust the United States, which says one thing, then does another? Spot on. Because that's logical reasoning, that's logical thinking. And that is why I am seeing now, like I always say, consider yourself lucky to be alive to witness the history in the making, because you are taking part of this history. Just think about it that way. And all this, I'm already ahead of this, because I argued this way back, that what if Iran end up going that? So that means we're going to have to learn to live with a nuclear Iran. So because that's the only other alternative for American ill-conceived foreign policy establishment. That's all it has at its disposal, is to learn, excuse me, is to learn to live with an armed nuclear Iran, as it does with Pakistan, India, and North Korea. Under no circumstances, guys, under no circumstances am I simplifying this. Do we use the term dangerous alternative? It's going to alter the history. It's going to alter the geopolitical and the security landscapes in the region and beyond. So under no circumstances I'm simplifying this. It's just I'm being pragmatic here in questioning what else does the U.S. can do against Iran, which, by the way, which, by the way, survived harsh sanctions for over 30 plus years. So despite all these restrictions imposed upon it, it was able to influence the outcome, meaning Iran. And regardless how much we keep saying, oh, Iran is a pariah, it continues to be and all that, Iran continues to march forward. And all that is the idea of strengthening its military defenses, influencing the region, because it's the major player in the region. Are you going to think about Saudi Arabia as a regional player? They're pathetic. Are you going to think of, who else are you going to think about? Turkey? Well, Turkey just an ally of a member of NATO, but it's just being used because of geographical location. What does Turkey has to contribute to NATO besides the geographical location? Heck, we couldn't even, Erdogan is almost begging for F-35s, and we're saying we're going to think about it. This is what I'm saying. So for Iran, it continued to march forward, expanding that influence in a region that is known also for its shifting loyalties and allegiances. That is one thing about West Asia and Middle East that you need to understand. And this leads me to, I think, my last point here, and I'll see if there's any super sticker question I will answer for you guys. And I'm going to share a screen with you. But first, I need to show you a picture here. And this is not a classified, by the way. And this is from the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. So I'm familiar with them. We used to do some work with them as well and all that stuff. So what am I showing you here, guys, about the Houthis? Because I have to go back to the Houthis factor here, because the Houthis is the wild card. North Korea's entrance into this fray now, it only makes it even bigger. But the Houthis are the wild card. Why is this? Because when you go back and look at the date here, guys, 2017, this is when the Houthis start to grow their UAV, the unmanned aerial vehicles, of course, with the support of Iran. But look at the radius. And all this ties also to the missiles. Look how far. Look what the Shahed 136 can reach, 2,500 kilometers. Look where Israel is, right there on the Samad, which is about 1,800 kilometers. So makes you just wonder, everything is within reach. And that's my point. And I'm going to share a screen with you guys and again, it's not classified. I'm able to share this one with you. All right, share screen. There we go. DIA, what is DIA? Right there. So, and I'm just briefly gonna go through the slides here just to show you a few things, why the Houthis, and this one was released on February 24th. So, and again, I'm all I want to share with you guys is some pictures to highlight few key ideas that you need to understand. And all this has been on development since 2014. And what happened in 2014? You all know Saudi Arabia, with the help of Americas and Germany and France and Britain and all that, were attacked. The Houthis were attacked. 6 other Arab countries have contributed to that fight in Yemen against the Houthis. Yeah, 6 Arab countries. I had the list. I think I did share it with you guys. What a shame on the Arab countries, and yet they call themselves Muslims. So anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But suffice it to say that when you look at this one here, guys, you look at the developments of the range of the Houthis, how far they can go. It's no secret that Iran is providing the training, the funding, and so forth. But at the same time, is the capabilities that's now is going to really, this is why I'm saying the entrance of North Korea into the scene, it's not a good sign for Israel. We're talking about massive destruction of the Jewish state. And I can go with that. That means and again, where my big concern is, and I'm going to share this with you because I like to have your input. If you can just leave it in the comments, whatever. Will Israel move into using its nuclear weapon if it sees its massive destruction? Yes or no? In the chat box, let me see. Will Israel end up deploying its nuclear weapon if it became clear that it's going to be defeated? All right, I'm gonna check this later on because there is a delay here, so I have to keep going here. So this is the idea. When you look at the exhibits of this military hardware, these are not small items here. We're looking at some advanced stuff here. So, and this is why I'm gonna stop this one here, guys. This is why you have to think in terms, what are all these means? How this is now is gonna shape that trajectory of what's going on with the entrance now of North Korea. So that's the way. Priest of Hiroshima, you say yes. Bamboo, you say yes. Humayun, you say yes. Abdullah Farouk, you say no. The West was the Francis Tango was the question. The question is, if it became clear that Israel will be destroyed, will it deploy the nuclear weapon against Iran? So, Cambridge Business, you say no. Gio, you say anything is possible. Surgeon D's, U.S. nuke to Japan, yeah, it's give and take. It's gonna be, because remember, if there is, to me, the way I look at it, if we reach this point, there will be a massive distraction. Israel might not have a chance to even have the opportunity to deploy its nuclear. And that's the way I read it. And again, I am not trying to just simplify this, but if North Korea used its military hardware, we're looking at a massive, in addition to what the Houthis have, Remember, the Houthis also possess, and what Iran has. And as I said earlier, the Hezbollah front is not being activated yet. So all this hints at different dynamics, and that is something I wanted to get ahead of it by sharing this brief analysis with you to give you an idea as to what lies ahead moving forward. So now that North Korea officially and publicly disclosed their support for Iran. And again, I do find it interesting for the timing that both China and Russia might have worked behind the scenes with North Korea. So that's the only way I see it. So, all right, guys, let me say thank you to some of you. Once again, Noel, I truly appreciate you, man, for your continued support for the channel. I'm very, very grateful to you. So, Fred Ball, I did a scenario analysis because that's what we do as analysts. Let's say the Zionists do succeed in the cleansing. What happened next? Meaning, what are the consequences? Shame on my country, Morocco, by the way. Well, Morocco has its own reasons for doing what it's doing. I'm sure you guys saw my post yesterday about some minister or something in the government talking about we have to fight for corruption in Africa, whatever. And I put, well, let's start with the prime minister first. I don't know if you guys know what the prime minister did. I don't understand why the king doesn't step in and say to the guy, wait a minute, why are you doing what you're doing? Because that's bribe. That's corruption. But again, it's no. I see your point, Fred. I understand your arguments here. So and not just Morocco. Majority of Arab states are useless. They just can't, because they are under the thumb of. Because now this is where these dynamics are changing. And when you have a country like North Korea, which we, the United States, can't threaten North Korea because we know what they're going to do. We can just wave our fingers and the Arab state will cave in. That's usually how it is. But with North Korea, we can't do that. We couldn't do it with the Houthis. We couldn't do it with Iran. So, and that is why. So what's going to be happen next is that now you're going to be either seeing that ceasefire will hold, and at the same time, Iran will have to rebuild its air defenses capabilities, and I will not be surprised that they will move forward with the nuclear deterrence. That's the only way I see it. So, Rafael, as always, man, greatly appreciate your kind support and generosity. So, give a bigs up to China for starting to take charge and the lead now. I believe China realizes that Putin is shell-shocked. It was time to take over. Many thanks for your super sticker and the comment. And you highlight a key that I need to share with the community, because I have a link that is very important. I wanted to share with you guys if I get to it. Hold on a second. And I really saved it for you guys. And that is, by the way, will be one of the key topics I am going to be talking about on Monday. I'm not going to detail the specificity of it, but so let me start it here. Let me share screen. Share screen. Okay. There we go. And by the way, I got this one on my Twitter feed. There are some people follow me there. They send it to me. This one was from Defense Intelligence. So take a listen here, guys. And I give the credit of soundtrack to the Defense Ministry of China, because that's their stuff. So anyway, take a look. Or take a listen, I'm sorry. What's important about this, guys, is that the China's DF-5B can deliver 3 to 4. I'm sorry, let me get the picture. 3 to 4 megatons of warheads. This is almost over 200 times the power of Hiroshima. And what is scary about this is the range. And the range of it is about 12,000 kilometers. So this is why on Monday, guys, make sure to be here on the live stream if you want to learn about this. Tomorrow, when I talk to Professor Anna Malendog, I will be talking only on one aspect of this. But on Monday, I'm going to detail this one. And this is why, once again, you have to put it in perspective, why North Korea announced its involvement now with Iran. So once again, thank you, Rafael, for this. And I'm glad you mentioned this one because I almost forgot. So Francis Tango, as always. Hi, Dr. O. I think Iran has the wrong president for for war. What do you think, Dr. O? And is it true that Israel gets B2 and the associated items from the US? First of all, thank you very much, Francis. There's a lot of conversation regarding Masoud Pezeshkian, the president of Iran. Now, not everybody in Iran is a fan of this guy. Why? You have to go back to his ethnicity. He's an Azari. So if you know the history of the Azaris and the Persians back then, and I'm not going to get into that, it's a long one. What makes it worse for him is the statement when he stated that he is willing to, he's considering renegotiating with the US. Of course, it's not his final decision. The final decision is for Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. That's the person that makes the final decisions. But the fact that a president will even entertain such an idea, that is what makes him maybe the wrong president for the wrong time. So what Iran needs now, Iran needs to show strength, and they are showing that. But with the president issuing these kind of statements, because the US now is counting on restarting negotiations with Iran again. If I were advising the Iranian government, I said there will be a strategic mistake for you to even consider entering into negotiations with Americans again. Why would you trust them after what they did in 2018? What makes you think they won't do it again? And once again, I am looking at the big picture. The entrance of North Korea into this, it gives me an indication that what they are moving is going to be moving forward is towards that nuclear path. So, and why not? Pakistan, look at Pakistan. Can we threaten Pakistan? No. And by the way, Pakistan is working now on an ICBM after we sanctioned aluminum. Why is this important? Because aluminum is very crucial for the ICBM missiles. So that's why it's important for you to be here on Monday, guys, to take a look at what I'm going to be talking about on Monday. Army with Harmony, many thanks for your continued support. Will Iran, North Korea strike preemptively? No. In my opinion, they won't. They won't. Because remember, and despite what we all been sort of surprised at the role of Russia, which had none, but don't discount Russians behind the scenes, because Russians can provide and they are providing intelligence targets for the Houthis. So I don't see why not they won't do that for Iran, and Iran has more capabilities than the Houthis. But preemptively, I don't see that, because what North Korea stated is if the ceasefire is violated, in that case, then it will gloves off. And yeah, in that scenario, I won't be surprised. And it behooves and it will be better for Iran to get on it ASAP before it's too late. And as to the B-2 for Israel, no, they didn't get any of that, not to my knowledge. Because remember, those B-2s stays on U.S. soil. This is different than some other type of planes like what we have in Al Udeid and Turkey and all that stuff. I'm not gonna. So that's why I'm thinking it's unlikely. That's the way I see it. So. All right, guys, I want to share with you updates about the upcoming trip, and I have a picture because I updated the fundraising. Here we are, because we were at 1,500 something. We are almost at a 50%. So I'm grateful to those who've already donated in support of the Asia trip. That's where we are. I am hoping to achieve this literally before the end of by the second week of August. So we have about almost a month, about 35 days. So I will greatly appreciate if you could support the Asia trip if you decide to. Here's the link for that, and I'm going to put it for you in the chat box. And to those who've already bought me coffee in support of the channel, I'm very, very grateful to you for that. So, and here is the one for the channel. So I'm going to put it for you in the chat box. I'm going to show it to you first here and share it in the chat box for. And the last one I'm going to share with you, it has to do with the books. Should you be interested in buying a copy of my book, just go to this site here. And guys, didn't forget about my upcoming book regarding Russia. So I didn't forget. I'm sorry, regarding China. So So it just there is a lot of moving parts. That there we go. So, and I'm very, very grateful for all your support, guys. So thank you very much, first of all, for keeping this conversation civil. I'm very grateful to you for that. You need to bring a moderator for the channel. Many in here just turning the chat into trash. Okay, do you know a name? Yeah, because I can't do everything by myself. So now, if you guys know, if you know the name, just say it here, and I'll remove. Okay, chat box. Where is chat box? Yeah, it's just there's so many moving parts that I have to focus. If I am to get you guys the accurate information, it's yes, and I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna look into a moderator for this one here. So anyway, so anyway, guys. So I'm gonna sign off here because I have to go work on some other stuff for you for next week. But remember to join me tomorrow for my conversation with Professor Anna Malandag. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.